Finding myself in the home of a friend, and we are going live in a guest room tonight. I'm very, very grateful for my friend Joe Polish, who let me come into his guest room and do tonight's show. We are talking tonight, y'all, about how to really keep our promise to ourselves, how to keep our word to ourselves, and not just to ourselves, but to others. Whenever we make a promise, whenever we commit to something, how do we keep it? But it's important that we actually recognize that it's actually really hard to do that sometimes to begin with. And so I want to be addressing the answer to this question of why is it so hard in the first place? So many of us have such good intentions, and so many of us have really beautiful desires to love people well and serve and help, and yet I don't know about you, but so often I felt in the past like I'm coming up short and I don't know how to do it all. And there have been a couple of things that have really helped me along my journey. And I wanted to share those with you tonight and also hear from you about what it is that you are doing, what's been helpful for you in keeping your word to yourself. What are habits? What are boundaries? What are narratives that you tell yourself to really help you stay on the straight and narrow? So I welcome your feedback here in the chat. I'd love to hear from you, learn from you. Tonight is a little bit funny because I'm actually, at someone's house, and I will be probably only live for about 20-25 minutes tonight, just to not keep them all waiting for dinner. But I wanted to keep my word to you of going live at 8:30 p.m. Central. So I just saw C. Martin Love. I love what you said here. Only make promises you genuinely intend to keep and can realistically fulfill. I love that. Honestly, that's such sage advice because, to be honest, Chris, and I think your name's Chris. I don't know. What's your first name? C. Martin. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you protect yourself from overcommitting. Because for me, and I've always been this way since I was a kid. My grandma used to say, "You move so fast," and even my dad, God bless him, he would be talking to me, and I would preemptively finish his sentences or preemptively say yes. And I feel like ever since I was a little girl, I've just been excited about life and excited about people and loving people and wanting to be a part of their world. And so often loving people and being a part of their world is by way of service and by way of connection in a way where I'm coming alongside them. And so, to your point, which I just think is so well stated, only make promises you genuinely intend to keep and can realistically fulfill. Because to be honest with you, I think I tend to genuinely intend to keep them, and then it's not realistic. So in my haste, I commit and I say yes. And I haven't consulted the calendar and I haven't actually done the work to pause and take a beat and consider, can I actually fulfill on this request? So just a quick note, Sender V, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. There's my alarm to go live. John Setkin, good to see you. T-Dub, 123 Chelsea. Y'all, tonight we're talking about how to keep our word to ourselves. And really, C. Martin Love really started this out strong by saying, only make promises you genuinely intend to keep and two can realistically fulfill. And so as he said that, I just was thinking, one of the things that has really tripped me up in overcommitting is actually not taking the moment to pause. And so to answer this question of why is it so hard to keep promises, for me, one of the reasons why it has been so hard is frankly because of haste. And haste, yes, and also, frankly, this desire to really please people. So my desire to please people actually trumped my ability to deliver on it. It was almost like instant gratification of getting the smile, getting the hug, getting the thank you, where it's, oh, can I actually fulfill on this? And for the most part, looking back over my business, we would always deliver on that. But I also equipped myself with somebody, my right-hand lady. She's so good. God bless Brittany. She's so good at making sure that I don't actually promise on calls and I don't give deadlines. And so now we've come up with a cadence over 6 years of running a marketing and brand business. I will never say yes on a call. I will say, you know what, let me check with her on timelines. And so I do the strategy part so I can answer yes about whether we can do the strategy. But in terms of timing, in terms of scope, it's become a practice and become a habit. So I would love to hear from you guys. I think that when it comes to interpersonal relationships, why is it so hard to keep our word and our promise? Why is that hard for you all? And for me, I think haste has been a big reason. And then also immediate gratification of like, just I really love them and I really mean it. Like that's where C. Martin, that's the first part is you genuinely intend to keep it and I do. And can I realistically fulfill it? Just checking in here on the chat. Medi, thank you for coming on here. YBD, thank you for joining. Coco, thank you. Thanks for coming on here. Conar, thanks for coming. 123 Chelsea. This is so funny. Govin Drajon. I don't know how to say that. Jake, Greg Anderson. No, I'm not AI. I'm here in real with you all tonight. I'm actually at my friend's house in his guest room, so I could do this show. Yami, Yogesh, C. Martin says, say no and yes and mean it. Before committing to something new, take some time to think about the implications so that if you do agree to take it on, you can perform to the best of your abilities. I love that. I really, really love that. And I think for so many of us, it's about what are the honestly, Brittany is a boundary for me in one sense. She really keeps me safe. So what are the boundaries that we need? And I think the first part is in terms of why is it hard to actually keep our word to ourselves, acknowledging what are my own, this is where self-analysis is so important. What are my blind spots? What am I not paying attention to that I just kind of continuously fall into? One of the, I was talking about haste, just being quick and moving fast. For me, I always can tell when I'm moving too fast. So I talked about this, I think this morning, or no, it was last night with Susanna. We were on a call and we were talking about key performance indicators, KPIs. They're used in business all the time, but we need them in our personal lives. And so some of the KPIs for me are if I spill something or drop something, that's usually a sign for me that I'm moving too quickly. If I don't feel peaceful, if I don't feel mentally clear, like I'm the one in the driver's seat of my life, that's another indicator that I'm probably on the pathway to not being able to keep my promises and frankly that I'm just moving too fast. Another KPI is that I'm snippy. Like I can snap back at people rather than just operating from a really rooted and grounded place. And so then the question becomes, okay, well, how do I actually ensure that I'm living in accordance with who I want to be, somebody who keeps our word to ourselves? And so I'd love to hear, the practices you all are putting in place to make sure that you guys are acting within the boundaries of your own definition of who you want to be. Each one of us has a different definition. And so I think that that's actually really important. Do we even know who we want to be in the first place? I just saw Wheezy, you said haste makes waste. I love that. That's so, so, so good. It's so true. It really is like there's something around moving quickly just can have what's in our wake of when we're moving fast. And so the process of, this is actually funny. I wasn't planning to talk about this. I didn't know the difference between doing and being for most of my life. All of my value came from what I did. And so, of course, I'm going to say yes to everything. Of course, I'm going to commit to everything because that's where and how I gained love. But as I learned to be and learned that my own being and your being, we don't have to do anything, but we're intrinsically of value. We're intrinsically worthy of love. And that's a daring and vulnerable thing to believe, that we don't have to do anything and yet we're loved. That's frightening. And in that process of realizing that almost brings that semblance of peace. It's like that, it's almost a sigh of relief when we realize that we don't have to perform. Performance, when it's rooted in love, not fear, it doesn't even become performance. It's almost like the natural outpouring and the natural overflow of, man, I love you. And so I'm going to actually do the things that I know will bless you or serve you, or I want to show you that I care by way of how I live my life. And the external doing is a reflection of my inner being, I guess you could say. And so some of the safeguards that have been so important for me is how does Christene Marie act when I'm truly in alignment? And then what are the KPIs that show me when I am in alignment and when I'm not? And then that way I really can be my own judge. Not even judge, that sounds a little bit harsh, but it's more so like I can be my own advocate. I can be my own caretaker. When I'm acting out of alignment, it's like caring for myself to bring me back into it. It's like when a kid goes wandering in the wrong direction, you're like, oh, no, just I'm going to steer you back. So it's not harsh with a, mallet like a judge would be, but it's more so like a caretaker. I'm going to gently steer you back on the right course. But if we don't know what our values are and we don't know who we want to be, we don't really have an ability to steer us back on course because we don't know what the course even is. And so one of the things that I actually wanted when I was a kid, I was told growing up, like, you're so fast, you're so hasty. And I actually wanted to be elegant. I was like, all right, well, I don't actually want to be that way. And so as I started realizing, I actually do want to be this quality. So not I'm going to change who I am, but this quality, this essence that breeds peace. Because at the end of the day, I want to have peace. And so what are some of the qualities that help get to that point? And so someone I was close with, she actually was very, very elegant and lived a very peaceful life. And so I just spent some time around this person. Like, let me learn from you. So when we know who we want to be, then we can have the KPIs in place. We also can identify the community. Who are people that we want to be like? Who are people that already embody the qualities and mentality and approach to life, the lens through which we want to view the world? One of the things that is important to me is not complaining and not gossiping. And so that helps me in terms of how I choose who I spend time with. If someone's a gossiper and a complainer, that immediately I'm like, okay, well, now I know kind of where you fit in the concentric circles. I've been saying concentric circles for probably a decade. And someone called me out yesterday. They're like, you're not saying the N, which I think is so funny. So the concentric circles. But it's helpful, it really helps us organize our life. When we know who we want to be, then everything flows out from that. Who we spend our time with, the music we listen to, every single thing that serves as an input into our minds, music, podcasts, books, friends, even honestly, the lyrics we sing. I think I said this last week. I took my darling to a band, his favorite childhood band, and we went there and I was listening to the lyrics and I was like, oh my gosh, this is how you view the world. And I realized that this band fed him effectively, not totally, but in part his philosophy and his approach to the world. And that's the power of every input. Everything that we're taking into our mind filters down into our soul and then comes out of us. It's like the information processing system of a computer. Input, it's processed, and then it feeds the output. And there's, the biblical concept of you shall know a tree by its fruit. So what's our fruit? And so if I'm not keeping my word to myself, well, what are my inputs? Because our inputs surely have to do with the outputs. And so one of the things that has been so important to me is that I'm so close with somebody who anytime they commit to doing something, even if it's like, oh yeah, I've got to text this person, they'll stop and they'll do it right then. They'll stop and do it again, like every single time. And so they model for me something that I need to grow in my life. So are we around people who model behavior that we strive to adapt or adopt? Are we around people that embody the qualities and characteristics of who we want to be? Or are we constantly the ones that everyone's looking to follow? Or is no one following anybody and it's all just a bit of lackadaisical approach to life, just not really caring very much and just not viewing life for the gift that it is. I'm sitting here in my friend's guest bedroom and there's just books upon books. 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield, 10x is greater than 2x, Be Your Future Self Now, like so many incredible books. The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. It's just amazing. So many inspiring books. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I want to be around people like this. I want to be around people who fill their library with books that are all about how to improve and be better, And then that's a mirror for me. What am I feeding my mind with? What are the books I'm reading or the books I'm listening to? And so every time, this is partially why we do the knowing show, is this is a moment to do a self audit. What are my inputs? And are my outputs actually ensuring that I'm walking closer to the person I want to be? You know, when I turned 30, I wrote my eulogy. And that was a big old mirror for me because I looked at it and I was like, oh, I'm actually not living according to being on the right track to be that person. Because when we identify what we want, our target, who we want to be, what we want to accomplish, who we want to serve, we reverse engineer it and say, okay, how do I become that person? How do I cultivate the behaviors and the tactics that will allow for me to be able to serve in that way and give in that way? But until I cultivate the targets, I'm not ever going to be able to do that reverse engineering process. Then every time we sit down at the beginning of the year and create our goals, well, what are we working towards? You know, are we thinking in 12-month increments, 6-month increments, 1-month increments, or 10-year, 20-year, end of life increments of like, who do I really want to be at the end of my life? And am I on the right track? And that's a really, really hard question to ask because sometimes we don't like what we see. So are we brave enough to confront the truth? So this question of why is it so hard to keep promises to ourselves and to others? I think a lot of the reason why it's hard is because we don't want to see the truth. We don't want to know the truth. So it's easier to just ignore it. It's easier to look away. But when we start being brave enough to look in the mirror, when we're brave enough to enter the arena, like Theodore Roosevelt talks about, it's so much easier to be the critic on the sidelines of everybody else's life and point and sneer and mock rather than entering the arena for ourselves and asking the hard questions of, am I living up to my own potential? Am I living according to who I could be? Am I living according to the purpose and the reason why I'm here to begin with? On Friday, we're going to be doing a 61-day challenge. It starts then. And I just invited everyone who wants to do it. I've dropped the link here in the chat a couple times. So you're welcome to join if you want. But there's about 15, maybe 17 of us who have joined. And we're starting Friday. And it's just going to be a WhatsApp thread. We had a call on Sunday about effectively identifying what is the one thing that we're going to choose. And I chose my one thing today. I'll tell you tomorrow. But I chose my one thing today, and I mentioned it to a friend, and he was like, "That's too much. That's too hard." He was like, "You're not going to be able to do that." And I was like, "That's not the reaction I was hoping for." I was like, "I wanted you to tell me like, good for you." And then eventually he came around and said, "Good for you." But honestly, I want to push myself because I'm in a room with 17 other people. I better freaking keep my challenge. I better do it. And there's something around being around people that we want to make proud. We want to make ourselves proud. We want to make them proud. It's like when we were kids and we wanted mom and dad to be proud of us. Y'all, we need to be proud of ourselves. Every time I do the good behavior that I'm trying to change in my life, us being able to self-perpetuate our own dopamine hits rather than being addicted to this thing giving us the dopamine hit, the better. So when we do the thing, when we walk in alignment, when we achieve our goal, when we do the small daily habit of being who we want to be, self-perpetuate the dopamine hit. Congratulate ourselves. Literally, like, yay, like something to congratulate ourselves for doing the thing that we said we would. And then our body starts responding, and it actually is easier to do the hard thing the next day. I'm just going to do a quick check here in the chat because I do need to jump off. I'm hearing spoons rattling out there, and I think that they're eating, so I need to go. Illusion, thank you. Thank you for joining. That's very gracious of you to say that. Nose to the grindstone. Thanks for coming, Jake. Grobe soap. Eric. C. Martin Love, focus on building self-worth, learning to say no gently, establishing boundaries, and understanding your authentic self, recognizing that true connection comes from authenticity, not just approval. So good. Y'all, isn't that so true? The question ultimately at the end of the day is, who are you and who do you want to be? And then moving forward in that direction because you want to, because you feel called to it. And man, once we're moving, oriented and pulled from within, passionate and being led literally from what we know is our calling and why we're here, it's so much more compelling than fighting and vying for other people's approval. So with that, I'm sorry I didn't get to all the comments. Y'all, thank you so, so much for joining. I will be on again tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. to move through A Course in Miracles, lesson 28. And I'll be back on again tomorrow evening. I have a guest on the Knowing Show, which I'm so excited for. But for that, for now, thank you all so much for joining. And I hope you have a wonderful night. I will talk to you soon.